All right, we're back with the news. We've been out for a couple weeks, actually, so it's good to actually come back on, talk to everybody, all you defenders out there. Welcome back to the channel. We've been out all week with the Warrior Poet Society. Really great training. So happy to bring those guys out and do training in Minnesota. In fact, it was awesome to see. We had students that joined in from watching and actually subscribing from the last couple videos we did. And so awesome to have all of you, if you guys are watching this video right now, it was awesome to have you guys on range yesterday. So it was super, super fun and lots of great training that happened. And if anybody's interested in any like videos and shorts of that, say so down in the comments below. I'll post some more of that on the channel, okay? All right, so let's talk the news. We've been really pushing into Walz's plan on gun bans and magazine bans for the state of Minnesota and in the wake of the Annunciation Church shooting. So where are we at on that? Well, the special session has essentially stalled, which is great news, of course, for the state of Minnesota and for those that love their freedoms. Now, does this mean they're going to stop? No. Of course not. They will continue to push on. In fact, the way that Walz is spinning it is quite interesting.
Clear to me that Republican legislators want to talk about everything else except guns and healthcare costs and the farm crisis and try and distract from that. So I will express that the talks are ongoing. I remain open to a deal where we can come in and get something done. My only thing was, as I asked for a floor vote on high-capacity magazines and assault weapons, and just let the members vote on it. And if they believe that's a bad idea, which obviously they do, the Republican legislators believe it's a bad idea, then you can simply vote no. And I said, if you want to bring bills forward on mental health, we've done it before and they voted against it, but if they're willing to vote for it now, I'm supportive of that, but we're going to talk about guns.
So essentially what Walz is trying to do is he's trying to shift the blame completely back over to Republicans, saying it's Republicans' fault and that this is an impasse that only they can overcome, and that therefore all of this falls back on them. Okay, and Minnesota is quite the divided state when it comes to gun rights, and this is the big reason why this gun ban wasn't going to pass. Now, we did have concerns of it, of course. I don't like my rights being on the altar of trying to push policy or trying to even overcome odds. You know, it makes me a little nervous, right? And what I mean by that is that had this actually gone through and was this legislation that were to pass, the FPC was already definitely aware of this stuff, and big time Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, they're doing a lot of heavy lifting in the legal realm right here in Minnesota. And the big hurdle that they would have to overcome is going to the district level appellate court federally, because this would obviously go into a Bill of Rights issue. And we've already had, and there's, court cases, between Heller and several others that state that, firearm bans and the like with common use weapons are not allowed. Doesn't mean they haven't tried that. Heck, Colorado's done it. California's basically neutered their rifles, down there, at this point, it's the People's Republic of California, right? So what Walz, just to recap, was trying to do, ban ARs, assault-style military rifles, which is very vague. They can just throw anything into that. And they would also ban what they call high-capacity magazines. Well, there are no high-capacity magazines. Magazines that are traditionally used in ARs and even AKs, particularly when we're talking about ARs, because that's kind of their big focus on banning, use magazines that are called STANAGs, S-T-A-N-A-G-S, STANAGs, which stands for Standard Agreement. It's a NATO, US and NATO term. Basically, this is the standard pattern of magazine that we're going to use for our NATO rifles using the NATO cartridge, 5.56 by 45, okay? That's where that actually comes from. The standard agreed round mount was 30 rounds. So it is a standard magazine, okay? So there's a little history knowledge for you on that. The big split, why this was not going to pass, though, comes down to the legislation. We recently had, and tragically, even though we disagree with them politically, we had a Democrat that got assassinated in Minnesota, and awful, awful stuff, and it's terrible that that person had to lose their life, okay? But that split the Senate, where you have a 33-33 vote. They will go to special election, and because of that, they will probably pick up another Democrat seat, which goes 33-34 in Democrat favor. It's where the House is split. That's the biggest thing, where it's 67-67 completely split in the middle, and Republicans are not going to be crossing the aisle to do that. If they were to, and which is what Walz is really calling on, in fact, he's calling on members and people that were part of Annunciation Church to contact your representatives and to hammer on Republicans to get them to come to the table to negotiate, okay? If it were to pass and they were to do that, and it gets pushed in lawsuit to go to the federal level, we're looking at that appellate court, our district. We're looking at six Bush appointees, 4 Trump appointees, and 1 Obama appointees, and which would basically mean it's dead on arrival, that it wouldn't pass the smell test. Okay, that would get thrown out. Heck, it probably wouldn't even pass a 3-panel judge, let alone the full bench of the appellate court at that level. So, was it going to pass? Probably not. But it's definitely one. It's not a good look for Walz, though, either, as he's pushing this, because he's definitely coming off as pretty weak. He's coming off as whiny, as we just saw in the video, pushing all the blame back on Republicans. So, and but I mean, keep in mind, this is the guy that's kind of getting implicated right now in the Feed the Future scandal. For those of you who don't know, the Feed the Future scandal was a feeding children, starving children fund that is now has seen 47 convictions and $250 million plus missing from state funds. I believe they've recovered $75 million. Don't quote me on that, definitely, but I'll have to pull up the numbers on that as far as the last news has come out on that. And he's even been subpoenaed by Congress to actually talk on these issues. And does that really mean a whole lot? Not really. We've seen what subpoenas really do in this country. If you're not in a seat of power, it doesn't, they'll hammer you. But if you are in a seat of power, like, not a whole lot happens, okay? And it's interesting to them still trying to ban those firearms. One of the biggest holdouts also that they're going to have is that if it did go to a full vote after the special session, they would also have to contend with the Iron Range. Now, for those outside Minnesota that are watching this, the Iron Range is, then those counties and districts are the set of hills where actually we have a large mining, operations there for the state, and it's a lot of union jobs. And it's a lot of blue-collar, traditionally Democrat, working guys and families out there. And that's a lot of hunters, too. And honestly, it's a hard flip where we've seen it in the past, where Democrats will actually jump aisle and vote on the other side against certain measures because those representatives don't want to get voted out because of how volatile the Iron Range actually is. And heck, we've even seen Duluth flip and go red before, too, with Pete Stauber going into office, which was super interesting. And so, with the Iron Range and with a lot of farms in Minnesota, we got a lot of farmland, you really have this rural-urban split that's just, for Midwest Minnesota, it's a huge deal. It's really what splits the state just right down the center, where you have the huge voting blocks between Duluth and the Twin Cities, and then you have pretty much the rest of the state that leans pretty dang red as far as our rights go. Okay. So also one of the bigger points was that negotiations, even during the special session, stalled with no one wanting to cross aisles and actually negotiate. And that really goes both ways. And I'm certainly not going to negotiate my rights away. So I definitely side with what the Republicans were doing as far as that's concerned. And because, again, just banning our rights, banning our ability to defend ourselves, especially when we see all these incidents happening across our country, active shooter scenarios, and explosive threats even happening now, which just happened in Michigan. We'll probably cover that one here too in a different video. The person that's most responsible for your defense is you, number one, semper I. So you got to take care of yourself. But negotiations stalled out, and so Walz really hammered on the Republicans, calling on them to, hey, come back and we're willing to listen to mental health legislation if you were to put that out, if you would only come here and give up your rights. And making it basically instead of addressing the root cause, let's get rid of these symptoms first. Maybe we'll do the things that you're interested in, but probably not, because often the DFL in Minnesota, they really don't play ball or play nice with anybody. You got to remember, man, this is the heart of defund the police, man. It all started here in Minnesota. Yay. Heck, we're still dealing with some of the fallback of that. There's great officers in the city of Minneapolis, some guys that I knew on the bomb squad awesome dudes. You know, some of these dudes retired and pop smoke because of this stuff. And, you know, one of the things that went up too, you know, we had the huge increase, 600% increase in carjackings alone because of the lack of police in Minnesota. It's one of the biggest crimes that skyrocketed, which is hilarious because at the state level, what media puts out in the state is that no, carjackings have absolutely been dropping drastically. And what they're not looking at and what they're not telling you is that when you're looking at the stats, they're not looking at the year-over-year stats. Okay, which is what, you know, any of you can print this up, FBI Uniform Crime Reports. Of course, you can pull it from the National Victimization Surveys. The data's out there. Don't take my word for it. Go pull it up yourselves. I mean, like from 2019 to 2020, 525% increase with another 75% increase the next year on carjackings. And then this is where the media has come in and said, well, like, oh, but from 2022, we had an 8% drop, then the next year a 38% drop. Look, it's going down, a 19% drop, and then a 60% drop. And even though you have those drops, wow, that's a 125% drop in carjackings for year over year. It's still 475% higher than where it should be prior to all of this. So it's like, oh yeah, it went down a little bit. We still have this massive spike that we've never left. And now it's just become the norm. And that's why you see stuff like, you know, you go to Walmart, you know, get closer to the Twin Cities and you see, you know, Legos in glass cases locked up. Or you go to the CVS pharmacy or Walgreens and you see, you know, hygiene products and medical things locked up and you can't get them. You got to go get an attendant to open up that case and to get products that you need because crime's through the roof. You know, it's just one example of that. So, all right. So a lot of changes there. It's awesome that we saw that stall out. That's our rights, at least safe for the moment. But what's the big thing that you can do? Man, go donate to the FPC. Go donate to Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus. Get involved at a local level. You know, put your money where your mouth is when you start talking about politics and things. I know a lot of us don't want to get into politics, but if you're not going to be the change that you want to see in the world, you know, what are you doing? Okay. I put my money where my mouth is. Last year I ran for the mayorship in our town. Didn't win it, but, you know, I learned a whole lot and I was willing to actually stick my neck out there and start to get my hands dirty into that. You know, it was a nonpartisan election. I mean, so, you know, just small town but it's super interesting to go through that process and to see just even at that local level, how politics really start to play a game and you start to see money seeping in from the outside, even though it's nonpartisan, possibly from partisan actors. So anyways, that's my 10 cents on that. Go get involved. Go call your congressmen, your representatives, your state level representatimes. You got to be more vocal. You got to be out there. You got to actually say something and go do something. And don't just sit on the couch watching me flap my guns on YouTube. Yep, I'm going to throw out fun information. I love having you guys here. But then after you're done here, go do something about it, right? Go through those legal channels and make your voice heard and be a great representative for your state and for your rights. So anyways, it's Mike with Aegis Defense Solutions. Thanks for sticking around. Remember, stay prepared, not scared. God bless and good night, everybody.